What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another Tottenham update. It's going to make it a hat trick in the studio today because we got Danny Kyriakou in the studio. Danny, what are you saying, man? How you doing?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to tomorrow, man. I'm just not liking the.
I'm going to wake up on time tomorrow.
Up, yeah, do you know what I mean? So, you know what I'm like. It's going to be a mission, mate. But no, I'm looking forward to it.
Well, let's get into. We've got 4 topics to talk about today. Let's start off with Brian Hill. As Matty Moretto says that Brian Hill to Valencia is hot. Tottenham are opening to him leaving now. Deal can be completed in a couple of days. And Gary Jacob is saying that Brian Hill is close to joining Valencia. And why this interests me even more is because only a few days ago, we heard that Brian Hill, Spurs are blocking a move for Brian Hill, and we won't let him go unless we buy an alternative option. So we'll get into that in a minute. But what is your opinion on Brian Hill leaving?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think preferably I would have liked to have seen him gone to like an English club or a championship club to get some kind of English football experience, because if we're ever going to have him integrate into the club and actually be utilised within the squad, he needs to have like some kind of experience in England. And because of the physicality of how English teams are, even in the championship as well, it's a different kind of physicality. So I would have liked to have seen him gone to like a Brighton or someone like that, or even like a Leeds. I think he might have done quite well at one of those kind of clubs. But it looks like obviously he looks like he's close to going to Valencia again for another season.
Do you think this spells the end of his time at Tottenham, or do you think that he can still come back next summer and knuckle down?
Possibly. I mean, there's quite a lot of Spurs fans that think that they might not ever see him in a Spurs shirt again. I'm of the opinion that if he does really well, right, there's always a chance. But I think the key thing for him, if he's going to play in a Conte team, is that he needs to bulk up. He needs to get more mass on his body, like Sessegnon's done over the last 2 years. He's obviously gone from strength, and then again this summer he's bulked up again. So he looks a lot more. It looks like he can deal with the physicality side of the Premier League, and I think Hill would probably need to get a bit stronger if he wants to have a chance, because he's got all the technical ability. And I think Conte can see it, because even just a few days ago, Conte said that he actually might keep him because he's been doing really well in training, and he really likes what he's been doing. So I think Conte likes him, but I think he obviously sees that he needs to play, and I don't think he can offer him game time week in, week out. It's just a shame it's not an English club. But I think there is still a chance if he bulks up. If he stays the same, he comes back next season, unless he's had like a worldy season where he scored like 10 goals, like 5 assists, and he's really impacted the La Liga and Valencia's kind of season, then there's a chance. But if he doesn't, then I'm not so sure. I don't know. What do you think, Ben?
Yeah, again, I'm not too sure as well, because we've only seen like bite-sized sample sizes of Brian Hill in a Spurs shirt. He went to Valencia last year. I think it was in January. He went. Yeah, it was in January. Yeah. He went into Valencia in January, and he really started to kick on there at the beginning. But then, injuries come and he tails off. So I'm a bit unsure on Brian Hill. I think that everyone agrees that the technical ability he has is there, but it's all about, like you say, bulking up, and will he do that?
I'm not sure.
It's all about how many chances he's going to get at Spurs as well, because Conte doesn't really seem to fancy him. And if Conte doesn't fancy him, we know what happens with players when Conte doesn't fancy him. So I agree that I think what he really needs is a loan into maybe even the Championship or a poorer team in the Premier League, someone fighting for relegation, or maybe just in the mid-table bracket, somewhere around there. So I like Brian Hill as a player. I think he's got the right attitude as well. It's just his physical attributes. I'm not sure if he's ever going to be adapted playing in the Premier League, but I guess time will tell.
Do you know who I compare him to, Ben? I compare him to Juan Foyth, because Juan Foyth has done really well in for Villarreal, and a lot of Spurs fans are like, we should be keeping him, this and that. For me, I don't think he'll ever be good in the Premier League because of his physical ability. He's a very technical player. Obviously, the La Liga is a slower league, but it's a more technical league, right? And they're full of technicians in that league, and I think he suits that perfectly. And there's talk that he might go Barcelona and this and that, but Spurs fans, why don't we get him back? And again, It's just that physicality. When I saw 1-5 play, you always could see he used to get bullied at times.
You know, I disagree with that big time.
Do you?
Big time, because
Okay.
I always was saying that we'll regret selling Foyth. I thought that he was a player with a high ceiling when he was at Spurs, and I always liked him in a Spurs shirt. And yeah, I think that fine, you could say that he's got a slender build and he's got to bulk up if he wants to make his name in the Premier League. But I think since leaving Spurs, you can see he's got that physical side to his game. You saw for Villarreal on that Champions League run, you saw against teams like Liverpool and other big teams that he actually coped physically with the challenge there. And with the technical ability he has, with the defending nous he has, and now with the physicality he's showing, maybe not in build, but in terms of application on the pitch, I think we actually missed a trick by selling Foyth, and I never wanted to sell him in the first place. And I thought, even at Spurs, yeah, he might have been a slender build, but I don't think he was bullied that much. And I do think that that he showed at Spurs enough that to keep him. And I think that if we would have kept Poch, you know, he would never have left the club.
Do you know? Yeah, I think if Poch was still there, he wouldn't have left. I think he would have integrated him a lot more. And maybe in a defensive midfield role, because, you know, he can play multiple roles. He's versatile. Maybe Conte would like that because he is a versatile player. I just think the difference is when you play those kind of one-off games in the Champions League, you can really apply yourself a lot more, right? The difference is it's your bread and butter, which is your league, right? So playing in the Premier League week in, week out, it's a different physical specimen. There's no other league in the world like it. Physicality-wise, your intensity, it's the most intense league on the planet. And I think that's where he came a bit unstuck, because having to train to play in the Premier League on a weekly basis is different than having to do it on a weekly basis in La Liga. That. And that's why I say I just don't feel that he could adapt to being a good Premier League player. Maybe he could have been for another club, but I'm talking about for a team like us who's trying to compete for a lot more than what, say, like a Southampton would compete for in terms of where we are as a club in our level. And I think if he maybe played for like a Southampton, he would have done well. And do you know what? I kind of bring it to the Kyle Walker-Peters subject, because Kyle Walker-Peters, people say, oh, we should bring him back. For me, I don't think he's good enough to play for a top 4 team. He's just not.
I agree.
I think he's at the perfect level where he is, and that's why it's where there's not so much pressure on him, where he can go and be allowed to express himself and play his game. If as soon as he goes into like a Man City or a Chelsea or a Liverpool or Tottenham or an Arsenal, it's a different type of pressure, and I think that's where he just doesn't show his level. And I think it's the same how I feel about Van Foyth.
Yeah, and bringing on your point to Arsenal and pressure, if you want to see Arsenal and how they deal with pressure, it's all to view on Amazon Prime, so check that out.
Free advertisement right there. Free advertisement right there.
And if you want to move on, well, let's move on. Let's talk about Ruslan Malinowski now, as Romano says yesterday that Marseille are in talks with Malinowski. Cengiz Ünder could be used as part of the deal. But he did go on to say that Tottenham's interest in Malinowski is there since a long time, but Marseille have made an official proposal for Malinowski. Spurs not yet as of now, but he does say, let's see. Do you think a proposal or a deal is there to be done, and do you think that he could be making his way to Tottenham, or do you think that we might be too slow to move on this one?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I mean, I'd like to think that we'd move for him. From what I've seen of him, I think he'd be a brilliant asset to us in terms of his his ability of what he can do, his long range shooting. He's good on both feet. He's a left-footed, predominantly left-footed. He's also, like I said, set piece taker. He's he's a unit. He's a tireless worker. He doesn't stop. So he'd be perfect in a Conte system. He can play on the right wing as well, but he doesn't normally play there. But he can do. I just think that it all depends on if Tottenham want to try and push for a deal for him, because the reports I've seen, Atalanta want straight cash or maybe a player swap. If Cengiz Ünder goes as a swap, I know there's talk that maybe they're interested in Reguilon, Atalanta, so there could be a potential swap deal.
I think he would do well there as well.
And I think Reguilon would do really well in Italy, because it's a lot slower. I think it would suit him a lot more. I thought Jose Mourinho was going to go in for him, to be honest with you. And I thought he might have been part of maybe a Zaniolo deal, but obviously they really want Zaniolo to stay. So yeah, I think he'd be. I think he's perfect for the Premier League. I think he's built for the Premier League. Physically, he is, and I think he'd offer something completely different to what we have. I'd love to see it. I've also seen possible reports that Spurs want to offer him a loan with the option to buy or obligation to buy.
It doesn't make sense though, because his contract ends at the end of the season.
I know. So what I heard was from one of these Italian journalists, they were saying that what they might do, if that's the case, they might extend his contract for a year because they've got the option to extend it.
I see.
So they'll extend it for a year, send him on loan, and then obviously that way they can get that clause comes into play with the obligation to buy. So we'd have to pay for him basically end of this season. Regardless, I would like to see him at Spurs. I think he'd be a great option. And there's a lot of people that have been following him for years. I know Matt Hazel's one of them, and he really likes this guy.
I've been following him as well. I mean, I think he's an absolute top talent, a wonder of a left foot. You know, he's a, like you say, he works hard, set piece specialist as well, which we desperately need at this football club. And I think he'll be good rotation for Kulusevski in that role. And you got to remember what you say before about. He can play on the right wing, but he doesn't usually play there. His favoured position is number 10, right?
Yeah.
And
or central midfield.
Or central midfield. A number 8 or a number 10 is his favoured position, right? When you're looking at Sonny and Kulusevski, you might say naturally they're wingers, but when in the Tottenham system, Conte uses them as number 10s. That's what he calls them. He calls them 2 number 10s. Yeah. And that's why I think Malinowski as well will be perfect for that position.
I think he'd be great. I think he's brilliant. He's got a ferocious left foot, hasn't it? Some of the goals he scored are absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. And that's what that would be nice. And some of the Italian journalists were saying that if he was to sign for Spurs, he'd be a fan favourite because of what he can produce on the pitch. He'll produce like these moments of magic, and I think we've lacked that kind of someone who can take the game by the scruff of the neck and just out of nowhere just score some absolute worldie of a goal. And he's the type of player.
We do have Kane and Son.
We do, yeah, but we need more.
I know what you mean.
We need more.
All right, so that's Malinowski. Let's move on and let's talk about a surprising one about Pierre-Emile Hojbjerg. As Jason Burt of The Telegraph says that Real Madrid are considering a bid for Pierre-Emile Hojbjerg to replace Manchester-bound Casemiro, but it remains to be seen whether Spurs would consider selling Hojbjerg amidst a potential bid from Real Madrid. First of all, how much do you think it would take for Spurs to listen to an offer for Pierre?
If I'm honest, I think maybe 40 million.
You think that low?
I think so, considering what they paid for him. Do you know what? Between 40 and 50 million, I say, because it depends. They might want more, but I don't see them wanting more than 60, 70 million pounds for someone. If someone like Casemiro is going for 60 odd million pounds and Milinkovic Savic is linked to away between 50 and 60, I don't think they'll be able to get that type of fee for him. I think between 40 and 50 maybe, or 40 plus add-ons or something like that. I think that's when Tottenham would look at it, because they might look at it and think, well, we've got Basuma, we need a different type of midfielder. We can go and get a Milinkovic Savic or a Zaniolo, but for me, I think it'd be the worst mistake selling him. I do not want this guy to leave.
Regardless of who we bring in?
I think we need to add to what we've got. I think we're going to weaken the team, I think, if we get rid of someone like Hojbjerg, who's probably one of our most consistent performers. I know last season he had some ups and downs, but that was due to the amount of time he's played, isn't it?
Let's be real. Since Conte has come in, he's probably been our most consistent performer, or one of.
Yes, he has been. And I just think that it'd be the biggest mistake if we were to sell him. Just because if we're trying to be a team that wants to compete in 4 competitions like Conte wants, you don't weaken your team with one of your best players leaving just to replace them for someone who can do something like different, because then if you get injuries, you're kind of screwed. You add to what we've got. Well, there's no reason why we can't add. I know obviously if we get rid of there's a couple of players we could always get rid of from the squad if they really wanted to for the foreign numbers for the European football. But they can always do that. It's just whether they want to or not. For me, I think it'll be the biggest mistake if Spurs sell him. I don't know about you, but
I don't want to see him leave. No, not at all.
He's a great squad player, isn't he?
Not only is he a great squad player, but he is part of, like you say before, the leadership team.
Yeah.
Or I think you or David said that on the pre-match show. So I think that he's a very integral part of this team in terms of mentality, leadership, application. He leads the line for all those kind of things. And other players probably look up to him and being like, he's one of them, you know, the big boys in the team. And And I think if you're going to get rid of Hojbjerg, you need to bring in a massive signing
huge
to compensate
signing.
that.
You need someone like a I don't know, like a Ruben Neves or a Milinkovic Savic, someone of that level in that position who can really replace them.
But I can't see us accepting a bid. I really
do
can't.
you know what? I'll be honest with you. I think Conte would completely block that deal. I cannot see him sanctioning Hojbjerg going to any club. And if Real Madrid are considering him, that maybe just goes to show the level of where he's at right now. Because if you look at statistically, he's one of the best in the Premier League in terms of his passing, his interceptions, his tackling. So in that position, he is one of the best. It might not. I know we all know he has his off moments and his bad days, but what player doesn't, right?
Yeah.
I just think you weaken the squad completely if he was to leave, and he has to be part of any team if we want to win trophies. If we're going to be that ambitious, he has to stay 100%.
Like I said before, the only way I accept Hojbjerg leaving if a world-class player comes in his spot. That's the only way.
Yeah.
And if that does happen, then I don't see it being too much of an issue.
No,
but it has to be a world-class player.
Yeah, I agree. If because we're looking to add supposedly we're looking to add a creative midfielder to add to what we've got. So if you bring in a creative midfielder and Hojbjerg goes, then like you said, you have to bring in a really top class player who can offer something maybe different than what we already have. Like a Neves. Like I said, I think Neves would be a brilliant signing, but it costs a lot of money to get someone like him in.
All right, and let's move on to the last story of the show. And as you can see on your screen, the day has finally come. Tanguy Ndombele has joined Napoli. It's been confirmed by Napoli and by Tottenham Hotspur. And Spurs have put out a tweet saying Tanguy Ndombele has joined Napoli on loan for the 22-23 season. Good luck, Tanguy Ndombele.
Ndom bye-bye.
Ndom bye-bye. Well, he'll be Ndom hello at the end of the season. But what's your opinions?
I'm finally glad he's kind of. I was going to say something else there, but yeah, I'm glad he's gone. I think he needed to just get out of that team, and I actually think he might do well at Napoli. They've actually got some decent players in this summer. If you look at the players they brought in, they look good, and I think he could be perfect for them. I think it's a lot slower league. I don't think he'll have to do as much as he needs to play in a league where it's not as intense. And I think I don't know why he wasn't getting into the Lyon squad as much, but I think somewhere like Italy, like Napoli, I think he is a perfect club for him to really show what he can do. I still don't think he's going to be that player that everyone hopes to him to be, like this world-class superstar. But I think he'll offer them something that will be handy for them, I think. And hopefully he does enough that they activate the buy option at the end of the season, because again we're going to be sitting in the situation again next season where no one wants him.
Yeah, I really hope he does well there, because then we can actually say goodbye to him. But
what do you think, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy, man. I'm happy. How can you not be happy? How can you not be happy? I mean, all window we've been talking about selling Lo Celso, selling Ndombele, selling Winks, selling Reguilon. 2 down now, two to go.
Yep.
But I've got very not so great news to tell you. Well, not news, but potential news is that, I don't know if you know, but Harry Winks, Reguilon, Ndombele, Lo Celso were all casted aside. They were training alone, blah, blah, blah. I've just seen today pictures of Harry Winks back with the Spurs squad.
Are you serious? Oh, don't say that. You're going to ruin my day now.
No, but I literally have. There's been a picture of Harry Winks integrated back with the Spurs squad. I don't know what that means, but
don't.
That's the situation.
If Harry Winks plays again this season, I'm going to be so upset, because every time that geezer plays, he's a train wreck waiting to happen. He just can't do anything. I'm sorry. Oh God, Harry Winks staying. Oh, and what do you think? How do you feel about that? Because for me, I could say, well, I could go on for hours to why I don't like Harry Winks, but. How do you feel? Because to me, I think that's quite a bad move, in my opinion, integrating him back into the squad. If there's someone that Conte's said at the beginning of the summer, he's not part of my plans. Is that a case of, well, we can't get rid of him, so now we have to?
That's the picture there.
Yeah, okay, yeah. That's with Emerson and Son, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fuck. yeah, that's my reaction. Fuck.
We'll see if you can see it. It's just on my phone there, but that's Harry Winks there
in the front.
Yeah, but look, Harry Winks needs to leave this football club
Yep.
to further himself on and to further the club on. That's just the facts of the matter of the situation at the moment. It's very annoying that he is back integrated with the squad. But we don't know that could literally just be a passing moment.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
Who knows what that actually? It's just a picture. We don't know what it actually means. But if he is being integrated back into the squad, it's not a good situation because that means that we can't find anyone to take him off our hands.
Yeah, there was. I did see some reports today and yesterday that Valencia are looking at him as well as Brian Hill. There's a couple of reports from some of the reporters in England and in Spain saying that Valencia are looking at him and they want to see if it's possible to take him. And there was an Italian team as well. I know Sampdoria were interested. I think their interest has come back again.
Right.
But with Sampdoria, from what I heard, is that Spurs would have to pay quite a bit of his wages. So whether or not they want to do that just to get him out the door is another thing.
I would.
For me, anything that can get him out the door, anything you can get back off his wages, even if you have to pay for half of it, at least you're getting it off the wage, some of his wages off the wage bill, and it opens up a spot in the squad. But yeah, I just don't want to see him back in a Spurs shirt, if I'm honest. I think he needs to go. It's about time, right?
Yeah, I completely agree. And last but not least, I said that was last, but I've actually got something that's just been brought to my attention right now. There's actually a quote from Christian Romero on his relationship with summer signing Richarlison, because obviously they've gone through the works before Richarlison joined Tottenham. And it says, "Today, me and Richarlison are teammates and we shoot in the same direction. Sometimes you can tackle one time hardly, but it all stays there on the pitch." So it's interesting to say that, I think Romero probably never takes any of his arguments outside the pitch, but once anyone hits him hard, you're going to get it back.
Yeah, you don't fuck with Romero.
No, but yeah, it's good to hear him talking about it, that's for sure anyway. But look, that is it for your Tottenham update today. 1 o'clock in the night, in the morning, tomorrow morning, join the Late Late Show with Tottenham on Tour. You might see this guy's lovely face there as well, but you'll definitely be seeing Brian Daigle and Brian Ireland. So call into the show. It's an absolutely brilliant show. And third episode tonight. So build up to the Wolves game. And then obviously tomorrow is match day. So pre-match pump up from 11 o'clock with David Harris, the Irish Hotspur. The watch along will be me in the studio here, followed by the post-match fan show. So an action-packed weekend on We Are Tottenham TV. Danny, thanks for coming into the studio today. It's been a pleasure sharing the screen with you. And yeah.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me, Ben. It's been really good.
No problem at all. And looking forward to having you back in the studio very soon.
Definitely.
But yeah, thank you everyone for joining us today. Let me know your thoughts on any of the news stories we've brought to you today. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.
Come on you Spurs.